been doing this now. This is the fourth year that we've been doing this, and we're just so excited about the momentum and the opportunity to learn and to listen. So appreciate the efforts of everyone and the power of this type of discussion. And thank you to the organizers.
Great. So we are very proud to be representing one of the groups in the United States for the Global Listening and Sharing session today. As I mentioned before, if you'd like to have some additional accessibility for our session today, we've enabled closed captioning, but I think each individual needs to put it on themselves, from what I understand. So on Zoom, there's a little more feature where you can put the captions on for yourself. So I certainly invite you to do that if that would be helpful to you. All right, so my job is to welcome and get this ball rolling. I am so delighted to be part of this. I've had the opportunity to be involved now for a couple of years in this session, and I always learn so much and really appreciate the opportunity to be part of the community that is literally circling the globe, talking about important issues in cerebral palsy. My name is Teresa Sugel-Moulton, and I am here at Northwestern University in Chicago. We have a very Midwestern Chicago group today. And I was trained as a physical therapist and an engineer here in Chicago. And I wear a couple of extra hats for this particular presentation. I'm delighted to both be representing Northwestern, and then I also am delighted to be part of this as an incoming, or as the second vice president of AACPDM, which is one of the member organizations of IAACD. And I also serve on the Scientific Advisory Council for the Cerebral Palsy Foundation. So for all of those reasons, it's a really important conversation for me, and I really welcome you all to be here and to listen and to learn so much.
Perfect. Hi, and I'm Debbie Gabler. I'm in Chicago, and I've been in Chicago my entire career and also life. I went to the University of Illinois for both undergraduate and for my MD. I did a residency in pediatrics and then a residency in physical medicine and rehabilitation, and then had 40 years of practice as a peds rehab doc. I'm also past president of AACPDM, but many years ago, and a board member of Cerebral Palsy Foundation. I'm happy to be able to have the pleasure of asking some of my pediatric patients who are now growing into bigger kidhood to come and talk to us. I'm currently retired, but also working on my mandolin skating and trying to get to see my grandkids. So for this first part, we're going to ask our participants to introduce themselves, and then we will hear a little bit about a survey that was done by the Cerebral Palsy Foundation, and then we'll go into a series of discussions which will be hopefully a little bit more interactive. So I'm going to ask Sutton if he would introduce himself, followed by Julia, Ashley, and then Haya. So Sutton.
Sure. Yeah, so my name's Sutton Reddick. I'm currently working at Shirley Ryan Ability Lab, where I'm an administrative coordinator. I was diagnosed with cerebral palsy at 6 months old, and there was a window for being treated by Dr. Gabler, which has been awesome. And yeah, I'm also, by trade, I'm a writer and photographer. I was a journalism PR major at the University of Wisconsin Whitewater, and with also a business emphasis. I run my own photography website online. I also volunteer quite a lot with the mayor's office for people with disabilities, and just open advocate for disability in general, trying to also get a TV pilot in the works spotlighting disability in the modern age. So
Julia.
Julia, I don't think you're unmuted. Sorry.
Is that better?
Yes. you
Okay.
can- Thank you.
Hi, I'm Julia Tana. I'm a current senior at Bates. And so if you hear people running through the halls, sorry about that. I'm a psychology major and I'm minoring in education studies. After graduation, I hope to become an occupational therapist. But this summer, I worked with Dr. Masal at the University of Chicago on a project called Successfully Negotiating Life Challenges, Learning from Adults with Cerebral Palsy. So I'm currently working on a senior thesis for that. And I, like Sutton, was a patient of Dr. Gabler's for my entire life until she retired. But I feel very grateful that I've gotten the chance to stay in contact and connect with her because she's part of the reason that I am doing my thesis project and working with Dr. Masal. So I feel like I still always have her in my corner, which is nice.
Thanks, Julia. You do. I say you're my daughter for life. Ashley.
Hi, my name is Ashley Nightingale. I'm 33 years old. I am a licensed social worker for the state of Illinois. I participate in several disability organizations, Access Living of Metropolitan Chicago, the DM3P Disability in Medicine Mutual Mentorship Program, and the National Disability Mentoring Coalition. I volunteer at Shirley Ryan Ability Lab as a volunteer for the social work department and the clinical research registry. I have been able to stay in contact with Dr. Gabler as she was my pediatric physician. She was instrumental in allowing me to be a part of the Joffrey Ballet of Chicago's production of the Nutcracker while I was a child. This pushed me forward to do a lot of the advocacy work I do today because it broadened my horizons into what I could actually do as a person with a disability. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. I forgot about the Nutcracker. You were marvelous.
Thank you.
Take a bow. And last but not least, Haya.
Hi, I'm Haya Maturia. I have been with Dr. Gabler since maybe 11, 12. She's not officially retired in my book. She's always been my doctor. And I actually live in North Carolina, and I've lived in another state as well. And I always go to her wherever I move to. She's my first go-to in terms of who to reach out to, how to get help in a new state. It's kind of daunting. Let's see. I'm a graduate of Illinois State. I've worked for Bank of America for about 18 years now. You see all my pictures, my cats and my dog are my children. Yeah, so I would say I have had quite the traveling road, taking me from all the way from Chicago to North Carolina. I'm a part of different foundations. The pictures were more important than more details about myself. I would say I've just enjoyed staying in contact with Doc Gabler, and whenever she comes calling for any kind of help or information, I'm just glad to do it.
Thank you, Haya. Our next portion of the presentation is going to be from Ashley from the Cerebral Palsy Foundation on an adult preventative healthcare project and some information on our survey.
Everybody, my name is Ashley Harris Whaley, and I'm the Director of Adult Programs at the Cerebral Palsy Foundation. Thank you to Deb and Teresa for the invitation to speak with y'all today. I'm so sorry that I couldn't be there in person, but was really excited for the opportunity to give y'all a little bit of insight into what we've got going on at the foundation for adult and lifespan healthcare. Just a quick, run through of sort of the big picture view of our project and kind of the timelines that we have in mind and how we've got things structured. So, we know, right, that there are more than 1 million people in the US that are living with CP, and logic tells us, that we all now know that there are more adults living with CP than there are children. And a lot of y'all are probably familiar with the fact that, when you're an adult with CP, which I am, and I've kind of been through this in the recent past, whenever you age out of pediatric care, you kind of tumble off of a care cliff. At the foundation, that is the problem that we are really trying to solve, is that once you age out, there really isn't a clear path forward. There isn't a lot of guidance or advice or oversight. And because of that, we have negative healthcare outcomes and an undue burden on adults with CP, which is largely preventable and would be very preventable if we just had access to good healthcare. So if we're looking bird's eye view at our project, we've got 4 pillars, which we're going to go into those a little bit here in just a second, but they're listed here on the left, and you can kind of see what we're envisioning to happen with the overall scope of this project. We are deep into the guideline development process right now, and as 2023 is wrapping up, we're also we're beginning to identify our implementation sites for our healthcare network, and we have been and will continue to be plugging away at policy and advocacy, as well as the super, super important piece of knowledge translation and dissemination. So those really are the 4 pillars that are guiding this project, and we view them not as sequential, but as concurrent. We've identified the problem, right? The problem is a lack of specialized healthcare for adults, a lack of standard of care, a lack of access to qualified, enthusiastic, non-ableist healthcare providers. And really, we feel like the first step in all of this has to be the development of clinical practice guidelines. And that is what we are doing right now. So as far as the research, here's where we are with our core working group. We're really proud of this group of people. We all work really well together. We have Mark Peterson and his team at the University of Michigan leading this effort, also with Jen Ryan and her team at the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland. Plus, we have some other folks on here that are all across the globe. We really want to underscore how much of an international effort that this is, and how hard we are working to make it as robust and inclusive and as easily accessible as humanly possible. So what we've done is we have established these guideline domains and are we are in the systematic review process, sort of at different phases across all of these domains right now. So it's really exciting stuff that we're not just talking about it, we're actually in it and we're doing it. So we wanted to, from the very beginning of this project is make sure that the priorities of it are driven by adults with CP. Obviously, I'm an adult with CP who's leading the project, but nobody needs to hear just from me all the time. It's really important to understand what the community needs to get out of this, and what they want too, right? Like, we've all been so let down and so disenfranchised by the healthcare system that it's time to give adults with CP the opportunity to kind of take back control of their health. And that's what we're really trying to do. And one of the ways that we set out to do this from the start was through our community survey. We were actually able to present this past September at AACPDM. And we ended up with just over 1,100 respondents. 79% of those were adults with CP. We also provided the option, of course, for parents or legal guardians of dependent adults to complete it, as well as like a spouse or other partner or caregiver. And really, it gave us a lot of good data, but some of the biggest points that I think are important is that we took every single one of these domains and ask folks to rank them as very important, somewhat important, or not very important. You can see this teal blue color right here was ranked as very important by survey respondents. So all of these survey respondents like feel that these different areas of their health are important and worth addressing. And the other telling things from this survey, I think, are, the ways that folks prefer to have their healthcare delivered. And of course, everyone would like to see their primary care provider, in addition to being seen at a major institution. So I think what this tells us is that, yes, we need these clinical implementation sites and this robust network where people are able to go and access really quality care, but we also, through this establishment of a standard of care, need to make sure that your regular old PCP in Nebraska or the mountains of North Carolina or wherever you are is equipped to provide you with the best possible care that they can. And this one, I think, really sums up the entire nutshell, is we ask folks in terms of like adult preventative health care. And again, we listed out all of these domains here along the side. Are you currently receiving care in those areas? And it goes, everything from respiratory health to endocrine health to musculoskeletal health. And the overwhelming majority of answers in every single domain was no. So I think that just underscores the point that adults with CP are not getting the health care that they need. And as far as where we are in terms of infrastructure and implementation science, these are some cool things that we have up our sleeve. We are, like I said, actively working to identify what those sites will be. And then, of course, there's the global effort being led in Ireland by Jen Ryan's team, and that is underway. We've also established a mentorship program. This is our first year, and we are working to connect folks in the healthcare field with both a mentor that's professionally relevant to them, as well as a mentor who is practicing in maybe an adjacent area that also has CP. So we're really trying to work on that pipeline and connecting folks who want to be in healthcare, which can be very exclusionary if you are a disabled person. And then we are also planning that the foundation's first ever conference focused on adults with CP and our healthcare will We are ambitiously aiming for that to happen in November of next year at the University of Michigan. And we know that knowledge translation and getting that knowledge out there and that information is going to be really, really important. As an adult with CP, it can sometimes be tough to read the research about what aging with CP right now looks like on paper. And we know through our larger CPF community survey that both for adults with CP and for parents of children with CP who are going to grow up to be adults, that aging with CP is a top priority. I think the encouraging piece is that almost everything that we're reading around aging with CP is preventable. And that's really our focus here, is like what we can do to lessen the burden of healthcare that's on adults with CP, and to improve their healthcare outcomes and improve their quality of life by doing that. I mean, we know that there's a chasm between the adult CP community and the healthcare world. It's that way because of disenfranchisement and because of adults with CP feeling forgotten and left behind. It's really unacceptable, and we're doing everything in our power to change that. I can say this because I live it, a lot of what CP does have its own challenges. We're kidding ourselves if we say it doesn't. But one of those challenges absolutely should not be access to healthcare, period. Thank y'all so much for your time. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for caring about what we're doing. Everybody.
Great. This is the portion of the program where we're going to take that with a caveat and hear from our participants now about their experiences. And I'm going to ask a few, hopefully not too difficult questions to our participants. So I'd like to first start out by asking, what's the one thing you wish people knew about living with CP as an adult? And Teresa, you're going to help moderate the order of the answers.
Okay, Ashley, why don't you start?
Okay, one thing people need to know that is, in order to overcome the barriers that we face, an individual like myself needs a good support team. What I mean by that is you can have your family, your friends, your doctors, and your therapists kind of working to make sure your needs are met and the goals you want to achieve, let's say in healthcare, are measured out in objectives they can help you complete, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Haya, do you want to go next? We'll go maybe alphabetical order for this one. Can you unmute, please? I tried to invite you to unmute.
No, you're good. I think one thing, a little addendum to having CP, I think people also need to realize that we're not only dealing with aging with CP, but we're also dealing with what everyone else deals with in regards to aging, what our bodies go through naturally as human beings. So I think that that's something that also needs to be kept in mind. We're not only dealing with aging with CP, but on top of that, we're dealing with just general aging, period. And just because we have CP, all those issues that they quote unquote non-physically disabled individuals struggle with, I think people are so focused on she's got CP, but then they forget, like, I'm 48 years old I'm going to be facing menopause in, in my future, hopefully far, far away. But I think a lot of people also need to keep that in mind and do whatever they can to address both, or address both aspects of the being, both the physically disabled individually, but also the human being and what we go through as we transitions in different periods of our lives.
So helpful. Thank you, Haya. Julia?
Yeah, going off what has been said so far, I agree with that. And I'm in college now, so I lived in the same town my whole life around the same people. And so as I was growing up, they kind of got to know me as I got to know me, and it became less of a topic of my disability. So as I'm meeting new people and interacting with others, like as an adult, I've noticed that people don't realize that I'm just doing what everyone else is doing, or at least trying to, just because of my limitations from my disability does not mean I don't have goals in life. And if provided the accommodations, I can get to the same level as other people. And it's not something to be afraid of, or I don't need pity. I'm just doing my thing.
And an important and cool thing it is, Julia. Thank you for sharing. Sutton, do you want to weigh in on this one?
Yeah, I think others have touched on it, but the approaching it with an optimistic but also a realist approach, whereas from joining the workforce, going off to college, and kind of navigating the stigmas, if you will, of we all kind of have the optimistic view of rally and make sure you're confident and comfortable in your own skin, but from experience it will kind of hit you in a way like a brick wall, whether it's job search, menopause later in life, or whatever the challenges for the able-bodied community are going to have a certain extra layer that go with having CP. So that's what I've kind of noticed in my path, and yeah, just going about it with honesty, but also optimism, and knowing obviously your support system, like Ashley mentioned. I'm a son of a mental health worker, so I was always taught that even with your positivity, it's always good to ask for help and know how you can advocate for yourself.
We had a very nice additional question from the audience. What age would the panelists like to have started talking about transition from pediatric care to adult care? I know all of you will say never, because we would want to stay together always, but that's not possible. But when do you think is an ideal time for kids to be, the spoiler alert, oh, you got to grow up? When's the optimal time, do you think that discussion should occur?
I'd like Haya to go first, maybe on this one, and then, yeah.
I would say teenage years, 15, 16. I mean, we're learning to drive, transitioning into adulthood, in, the world in general. So I think around that time for me would make more sense, or would have made more sense. So I would say like 15 or 16, a plan should be started to, okay, how do we handle it when 18 comes around and what's the next step. So I would think for a lot of individuals, and I've, speaking with my peers, and we've often said like 15, 16 would have been great if we had a plan in place and the apprehension wasn't there.
Thank you, Haya. Julia, you might be closest to this. I'm curious what your experience is and if you feel like it was about the right timing.
Yeah, I agree with Haya. I feel like so both of my parents are doctors, and they did like push me to be independent in the way that I could be, like similarly to the way that they would be with my siblings. So I felt like I started with a little bit more like just basic, making my own doctor's appointments and making those calls, or if I had an issue, I was encouraged to like message my provider myself, those kinds of things. Um, but I would agree, like the teenage years would be ideal to start talking about that for now, because like I still have questions, um, which, then I know who I need to go to get those answered, but it's such a long learning process that honestly, the earlier you can start, the better. And I also feel like for CP related things, I think it would have been beneficial to hear like over an even broader range of time in like things that might happen with my CP or things like that, just at an age appropriate level. Because I don't think I fully felt like I had as much of a voice in my CP specific appointments until later than I would have liked. And then once I realized I had a voice, like I was able to use it and I was supported by my doctors. So just starting that process early as well.
Thanks, Julia. That's really helpful. Ashley, do you want to go next?
I would say I would like individuals to start thinking about transitioning into adult health care at 13 with increments of increasing information as they get older, similar to the way an IEP is planned. So by the time they turn 18, they have an idea of who their team is, who they need to reach out to for specific care, and to make sure their needs are met within a timely, efficient manner. Thank you.
Yeah, makes sense, Ashley. Sutton, what would you like to add?
Yeah, I think the sweet spot would be like the 17, 18 range, maybe earlier, like Ashley said, based on just, you're competent enough to really take charge of, how you're obviously self-aware. So for me, I know that my big milestone at 14 and 15 was having my first corrective surgery for my gait pattern, and along with everything else non-CP, going into high school, just all the things that go with that, just knowing, okay, this is going to be my brand new physical therapy plan. This is the new medication window of like what to take, XYZ, and your care team and your parents and support team are going to be a crutch, but ultimately, if your best interest is in mind, you're going to want that level of consciousness. So yeah, I would say earlier the better. It fluctuates, but yeah.
Thanks, you guys. Um, what I know each of you very well, and I wondered if you would describe what your big influence is, not maybe so much the medical, because I know each one of you have talents outside of coming to the doctor. And a lot of times we concentrate on healthcare. But what are some of the other things that you would say are your influences to build your resilience? And if you would say to younger folks, what are outside options to build that resilience?
I think we should start with Sutton this time.
Yeah, let's do something. And I know your sense of humor and your sense of adventure, so don't be shy.
Yeah, I would say just knowing that you're still gonna have ambition towards whatever is caught your attention. So I had an older brother growing up who was really big into, sports and skateboarding and all that and photography. So typical older brother, you just latch on to whatever your cool older brother does. But I would just say knowing that even with the, you know, I don't want to say limitations, but the hurdles that could come with a certain pursuit, that you can still navigate, your passion and ambition to build whatever you want to build, to be your own person and do it without having to kind of hide that part of yourself that has CP, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's great. Go ahead, Ashley.
My influence are first and foremost my mother and my father and my sisters. I grew up being the only one in my family with a disability. They did not treat me as though I had a disability. That built my resiliency from the beginning. Then, as I got older, I participated in a mentoring group there at RIC, the Rehabilitation Institute of Chicago, then, which is now Shirley Ryan Ability Lab. Then, as I got older, around the age of 15, I attended a transition group at the Rehabilitation Institute. So that started my trajectory to want to achieve and do more, regardless of my disability. It has led me to so many different opportunities where I can affect change positively for the disability community. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ashley. Really beautifully said. Haya, do you want to take this one next?
For me, my biggest influences were my peers, and also just watching the world. I'm big on people watching. And when I didn't know what to do around my CP or, figure out who I was, I'm still trying to figure out who I am in some ways. But I focused on, okay, I have CP, yes, but I remind myself, nobody on this planet is perfect. We all have our disabilities. Some are physical, some are psychological. And so I remember, like, we're all on the same playing field. My disability is just more obvious to the eye. And so I tried to focus on just, what do people do in life? You graduate high school, you maybe want to go to college or go into a trade or get married. And possibly even have children, depending on, just what you want. So I really tried to stay focused on just doing what everyone else is doing, whether they have CP or not, and then kind of figuring it out as I go along. And that's got me pretty far. But I think a lot of people need to remember that disabilities come in all ranges, and just remember that we're all on the same field as a team. Yeah, like I said, I think the world has been my how do I figure it out? I try not to idolize any one individual or say, family is important, yes, but we are often exposed to more people in our daily lives for more periods of time, especially if you work or you're part of different organizations. There are so many people that can influence you and do influence you, whether you're conscious of it or not. So I've really just tried to kind of, figure out my own path, and just take take leads from people who've done it before me.
Yeah, I really like that reference to figuring out your path. I think that like a lot of us can probably resonate with that idea of like learning as we go. Julia.
Yeah, I agree with that. I live really close to the Great Lakes Adaptive Sports Association, which I was like lucky that my parents, started signing me up for adaptive sports, because not only do the people at Great Lakes Adaptive Sports want you to try every sport, um, it's a big community of people, and I've found one of my friends who's been my mentor as I've been getting through college. I met her through swimming, and I can't even imagine what life in college would have been like if I didn't have her, because she has just taught me so much. And so, like Haya said, like people have done it before us. And so if we can connect as a community, and share that knowledge, that's a big that's a big thing in getting to do what you want to do. Also, I'm just gonna go ahead and plug my friend. She co-founded a organization called A Place for Us that aims at getting people with disabilities, who are interested in higher education, a mentor so that they can be guided through the process as well. And we like to talk about it. I was kind of like her first mentor, so that's cool. But yes, A Place for Us is a really good resource in the US if you know of anyone who may be interested in higher education of any kind.
Excellent. One of the things that I know that each of you, and I have to say, Haya, I know that at one point you were doing power weightlifting, right? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
at RSC.
Yeah, there's many times when therapies are not readily available to adults with CP. And I even remember, Julia, you wanting to quit physical therapy and do swimming, and I really understand that there's a lot of ways that you can get physical activity and therapeutic movement. That's why I always appreciated Sutton coming in with a helmet on his skateboard, and but talk about that a little bit in terms of therapy versus physical activity and fitness, and how you feel that fits in. And Ashley, I know that you struggle with that too. So if you don't mind talking a little bit about physical therapy versus physical fitness and outlets in sports and other areas.
I think you were referencing Ashley to go first on this one, maybe?
No, it doesn't
Oh,
have to
or
be Ashley. I would say, Julia, you talk about your swimming because I know that was such a passion for you for so long.
Yeah. So I actually learned to swim through Great Lakes Adaptive Sports Association when I was really little. And then I did physical therapy. In the summer, I would do the swim sessions as well. But I found that in physical therapy, especially growing up, as I was just like anyone else, being very critical of themselves during that time, I struggled with the physical therapy because I hated that I couldn't do the things that I was being asked to do, which obviously is the point of physical therapy, to get stronger. But I didn't feel like I necessarily had, again, much of a say in what was happening, and I didn't fully understand why I was doing all the exercises I was doing. When I started swimming, my coach was amazing because she had actually worked with other individuals with disabilities before. And so she was really good at coaching in a way that acknowledged my CP and my pains that I might have in a day, but also pushing me to be able to, reach my highest potential. And when I was swimming, I just felt better in general. And I actually started swimming in college, but then quit because I wasn't receiving that, I wasn't being pushed enough. And so I found swimming to be not like I wasn't getting enough from my coach. I feel like he was a little bit just pushing me to the back burner. And although I'm happy that I'm not swimming now for some reasons, I do feel it on my body that I used to have all this time swimming. Now I'm actually back in physical therapy to get that movement back. And I think it takes time. Like now I understand more about what physical therapy is and like the benefits of it, even when it's really frustrating. I'm at the point in my life where I, want to not be in pain, and I know I can do that through physical therapy. I do, if I was still swimming, I probably wouldn't be doing physical therapy. Just like Dr. Gabler said, sports really allows you to move and, use different muscles when you might not normally, but having PT now at least keeps me and my like pain in check. But it's definitely not as fun.
Haya, do you have any? I know I called you out on your weightlifting.
This is actually a passion of mine, because I, throughout my life or throughout my adult life, maybe around the time I got married and then divorced, I struggled with weight and trying to maintain weight because I would do all the right things with what I could control, my nutrition, be as active as I could be. But when you have a physical disability, you can't keep the cardio up to what the what the experts say it should be, or your metabolism slows down. And me being primarily a wheelchair user, even though I can use my crutches, my gait is a little wobbly when I'm on my crutches. So it's not always safe for me to be on my feet if I don't have someone with me. In regards to PT versus like working out in a gym or an adaptive sport, I feel like PT, in my experience, I've only gotten it or been allowed to get it when I am recovering or dealing with an onset injury or a new issue, or I've had surgery, and so it's PT right after. But I've never gotten the opportunity, and this goes to insurance as well, for just maintaining flexibility and other things that PT can offer you. also PT is limited in regards to what they can and cannot do. So I prefer to work out with like a personal trainer when finances allow, or working out in a gym, because it allows me more of a voice and the person working with me to kind of push those limits and push those muscles, and build more strength training rather than just working on coordination and mobility. I feel like when I build strength in my legs, or even different parts of my body, just not just the upper body, because I find that a lot of trainers, I've kind of had to coach them to say, I need a full body workout. Let make it as adaptive as possible. Don't just work out my arms. But I like the power and strength that I feel when I'm working out with a personal trainer and build that strength. It sounds funny, but in a lot of ways, I feel less disabled the stronger I get. So PT and working out in different adaptive programs, they all have their pluses and minuses. But I think there's a lot of people should have the opportunity to have a combination of different things, not just one thing. And I find that works the best for me. Yeah.
Good. Sutton, how about you? How do you keep your trim fit?
Yeah, others have touched on it. Obviously, a good PT regimen is crucial for anyone with CP, and but I would honestly touch on just, I think, naturally, whether it's like on the playground back in the day or just having friends in the neighborhood. It differs based on your level of accommodation. But for me, I was just always very open to playing kickball in the playground, and like a buddy would kick for me, but I'd run the bases. And Dr. Gable mentioned my long skateboarding career with my brother, who loved it, and I would just have a long board and go on my hands and knees. I would just say it's the level of, as you grow up, knowing that your body's gonna have different, a different growth spectrum than kind of an able-bodied physiology. So just knowing that, I don't want to say you have to adapt, but you can still maintain that level of enthusiasm while committing to your proper physical therapy plan, and just kind of growing that, it's a good psychological too, to blow off steam with a hobby or a sport. So I was always all for it.
Great. Teresa, I'm thinking we could talk for another hour, I'm sure, and I would love to do that, but we're nearing the end of our hour. Do you want to wrap up and provide us any insights, or anybody else, if they want to unmute? We'd be happy to hear from you.
Yeah, I'll pause for a second and see if there was anybody else that wanted to say anything briefly.
I would just like to say, this is my first experience with a panel and forum like this. So it gives me hope. Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. I think it's a discussion that needs to be had, and I just appreciate it so much.
Thank you, Haya. That's the perfect segue. I mean, I really wanted to say a great thank you to all of you for being here, for so freely and willingly sharing with us your stories and your experiences. And I don't know if everybody on the call is aware or not, but the IAACD aligned this very intentionally with the International Day of People with Disabilities, a United Nations mission. And I think that it's important for us, as we recognize this sort of global effort and response, and pause for a moment and reflect on those in our world that are dealing with more strife and conflict and other sources of stress, because we know that people with disabilities are disproportionately affected by these kind of situations. And it is our collective hope that those in power can do what everyone on the call here today is doing in listening, because the voice of those with the experience and the understanding of what it's like to have a disability are those that we can really learn from and hopefully create action to support and to better everybody. Dr. Massal, I see that you have your hand raised. We can give you about 30 seconds before we need to allow everyone to get back to work, but please go ahead and unmute yourself and share. Oh, you are still muted.
This is what I learned today by listening, and that's all of your stories are both complicated journeys, and you've known things that have been supportive as well as hassle factors, as well as things that were really roadblocks and not very helpful at all. But the major thing is keep on building to your strengths, keep on going on this journey. You don't have to be perfect, but you want to make sure you're not climbing Mount Everest alone, but you know you can set your goals for things that matter. And all of you seem to have entered components of the health professions, or the majority of you, and the health system desperately needs your leadership, though they don't always fully understand you. So I would make sure that not only your voices, but your lived experiences continue to inform what we know are the capabilities and potential and the amazing things that you all do. Thank you.
Thank you. What a wonderful way to wrap it up. I think, Dr. Gabler, anything else that you want to say?
No, hopefully you'll all have a great rest of the 2023, and we hope for even a better 2024 for all of you. So thanks so much, and thanks for all the participants who stuck it out with us. Thank you, Teresa.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.